So when Deborah was doing school virtually,
Yeah.
I was like, can we move?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, let's go to Vegas. She's like, why? I'm like, there's this guy Andrew there. I can't really get him to talk to me over the phone. I'm gonna buy a house there, go to his office every day, and learn everything I can from him.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Do you have a problem with Vegas? She's like, no, let's go. Sounds good. And so we literally moved. I bought a house in Vegas. Like, yes, you know, I was like, oh, I've told people at the time, like, it was for taxes. It was so that I could get near Andrew and build a relationship with him, because I knew he had so much experience that I could learn from.
Right. All right, guys, welcome to True Talk. We have a special guest in the house today. My man, Zach Twardowski. How we doing, bro?
Good, man. Thanks for it's good to be back. It's been a while since I've been up here.
I know, it has, dude. Yeah. What took you so long?
Sean moved to Florida.
Yeah.
It took me so long.
That'll happen. And you've been busy working.
And I've been busy, yeah. No doubt.
Integrity partner, right? Yep. When did you do your deal?
June of 2021. So 2 years and some change in.
Got it. Yep. And dude, what's crazy is, like, I feel like I see you and hear from you more now than before the deal. It's almost like you're working more now after the deal.
Yeah.
You know, I would assume that, you know, sometimes it's the opposite. And you know, to that point, why are you working so hard right now? Why? I feel like the work ethic, the level, everything that you're doing is kind of increased since then. Where does that come from, and what are your goals?
Well, I think a couple of things. So, like, I view the integrity deal kind of like, we were joking before because you're wearing the hat and I'm wearing the suit. Yeah. And I'm like, I almost look like I'm your agent, right? Yeah. And but I look at it like this is like a rookie contract, right? Yeah. And it's like, yes, you know, I kind of got the blessing of being able to do a deal with integrity, and that was really cool. But I didn't look at that as like the end goal. I'm like, this is just kind of the first real professional thing I've been able to do in the insurance industry.
Got it.
So I looked at it like this is like the beginning of a very long career in the industry, and it's an opportunity to meet a lot of great people, and I want to, you know, leave the right impression on people, but I also want to make sure that all the people that helped me get there get to come along for the ride, right? Yeah. And so I want the rest of the people who, not everyone, but the people who deserve it, who are working hard, to come along as well.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't want to leave anyone behind. And dude, I had a lot of help getting here. Like, we did a couple day training the other day with a bunch of our managers. It was so funny because I realized I was just, you know, someone commented, they're like, everything you say, you credit someone else. Like, it's very humble. I'm like, no, it's not humble. It's true. Like, I didn't create any of this stuff, but I just took stuff from so many different people.
Right.
And so I didn't want to get to a certain place and then just stop doing what helped me get there, right? Which was having people, you know, I can't name everyone, but all the people who, you know, helped me get to where I was at. I didn't want to just, you know, kind of sail off in the sunset. I wanted to do the same thing for people that where I was at when I was in the business, knew, had a ton of questions. You know, I every person that would talk to me, I would ask them questions, and I found a few really good mentors that would answer, and I just want to do the same thing for other people. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's crazy seeing you, how far you've come in just a short period of time. Like, when did you first start selling life insurance?
End of 2017. So right on almost 6 years now.
Got it. Almost 6 years. No background in sales.
No background in sales. No.
Your family is a bunch of doctors, right?
Yep.
And you were going down that path for a little bit?
Was going down that path, yeah. And then Deborah now. So it's funny because I've used her story to train over the years, right? Yeah. But so we were both going to go to medical school. She ended up going back. I found this, loved it, really not from the beginning, but like the first 3 months were rough for me.
Yeah.
Then once I kind of figured out that there was a formula to this, like there was.
Why were they rough?
They were rough because, honestly, I didn't have any set structure. Yeah. I'd never been independent before. I never even had a job before. Besides, you know, when I was in college doing some oil field work and then bartend. Like, outside of that, I'd not had like any real long-term job.
Yeah.
So it was you know, we moved from Boulder, Colorado to Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So totally different, not only part of the country, but different culture.
What brought you down there?
So Deborah did a thing called Teach for America.
Yeah.
Where they basically take like college graduates and put them in schools where they can't find anyone to teach at.
Okay.
They do like a quick month-long summer like teaching crash course sort of, and then they're like, hey, you got to go to this school because we can't find anyone else to be a teacher there. Wow. So it was like 100% like free and reduced lunch kids.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So it was it's kind of like Peace Corps for teachers, I guess. And so we had been together for a year when she found out she was going to do that. And honestly, I knew I was batting out my league a bit. I'm like, man, she's awesome. She's super smart. She's beautiful. I'm not letting her get away. I'm going to go with you. So she told me she was going to South Carolina. I'm like, sweet, I'll go with you. And she's like, for real? I'm like, yeah, of course. which actually ended up being like it was one of those things where it was just like my gut was like, just go.
Yeah.
You know,
You guys weren't married at the time.
We weren't married. We were just dating. Yeah. And so I called her dad. I was like, are you okay if I go with her?
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll live together if that's all right with you. And he was like, oh my God, thank God. I was so worried.
Wow.
You know,
that's cool.
So we moved there. Right.
Yeah.
But it was just trying to figure out how to be an adult a little bit. And then also not having any working experience.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was kind of up and down all over the place, very emotional in the beginning. And then I remember through a lot of conversations with John Wetmore, like understanding that there was a formula to this that would allow me to not be emotional.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, I fell in love with this business. I'm like, oh, I can just, if I set like really strict goals and structures for everything we do in this business, then I'll outperform almost everyone because most people have no structure and they just kind of live their life by the seat of their pants.
Right. Because it's a transition, man. You know, regardless of what type of work you did prior, you said you bartending and do some other stuff, but it was all, you had a boss, you had a time to clock in, a time to leave, right? Yeah. You knew that these were the hours I had to work. You didn't have a choice. Right. Or you did, or they'd fire you. Right. And here it's like you're an independent contractor. I'm not going to call you Sean, John. No one's going to call you and go, Zach, did you clock in today? No, that's on you, right? So in the beginning, you had to figure that piece out.
Right. And so I played lacrosse in college.
Yeah.
And then I had a pretty demanding workload. My degree was in biochemistry. Okay. Right. So I had a degree that's super applicable to insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that why
it's
you're
like the
so
most,
well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You have to have that degree to do insurance.
Yeah.
sales.
So if you're struggling, go get that degree.
Yeah. It's super. Yeah. It teaches you basically everything the opposite of how to sell. Right. But so I knew time management there, but it was all things that I had to do. So what I realized was, and I always kept a really good schedule when I was in college because it was like, you know, you'd work out at 5 a.m. and then you'd be done by 7 and class would start at 8:30. So you're like, you have to plan meals and be very meticulous with your schedule to make all that work.
So you've done it before, but.
Yeah. And so I realized like all I had to do was, the only reason I was able to do that successfully and get good grades and manage everything. And then like I would even write out like nights I was going to go out. I don't drink anymore, but like I used to go out and study in college, right? I was a college kid.
Right.
I'd still go out 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week.
Of course.
So I have my old planner from college. I would write those in, like we're going out this night. So I would have like study. So I had it very well planned out. Yeah. And then when I started doing well here, I just started writing out everything in my schedule, like to the minute. And so when I woke up the next morning, I didn't have to think like, oh, what am I going to do today? I was like, no, I know exactly what the plan is because I scheduled this a couple days ago. So I know exactly, you know, every hour is accounted for.
Got it.
And so I was like my own boss, right?
Yeah.
Like truly my own boss because I was telling myself what to do. And it's like when you set your alarm the day before at like 5 a.m. You wake up, you're like, I don't really want to get up, but there was some reason I set it yesterday.
Sure, yeah.
So the same thing, I was like, oh, my schedule, like I don't really want to do like 4 of the things on here, but it was important enough that I wrote down yesterday. I might as well just do them. Yeah. It's kind of like my mindset behind, you know, just following through with what I planned.
I gotcha. And I remember when you were selling, you know, full time, and I think was it your last year full time you placed over 800?
Yes. Yep.
And for personal.
Yeah, that was 2020, and I sold from January. I got out of the field in October of that year.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I see did 800 and you got out in October.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, you would have broke the record. You kept going.
At the time, probably. Yeah.
But you know, I bring that up because you sold at a high level, but you also have taught a lot of people. You get people like Easton on your team who's up there, and I mean, there's a handful, Jake, all these guys. You've also scaled this business, which is something that not everybody does, right? It's like, and I don't think, you know, I would never go, anyone can sell. No, but we have a lot of agents that sell. You know, on a weekly basis, over 6,000 agents get paid on a policy with us. So that piece we seem to have figured out, right? But scaling the business, there's not 6,000 businesses. Now, you're probably top 5 maybe in the company right now. Talk to me a little bit about what are some keys to scaling this to the level that you, because it's not, you know, what I think a lot of people think is like, what got me to 150 a month, if I just do more of exactly that, I'll double, which is not true.
Right.
What got you to here is not going to get you here. And that's one of the, I guess, the hardest parts of this business is you have to change and evolve all the way up, right?
Yeah.
So what were some keys for you to scale to the level that you're at right now?
So one thing I struggled with early was I think a lot of top producers expect everyone to think the way that they think and to do the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And that'd be like if we ran, like say we had a bunch of Walmart franchises, you and I and everyone else here did.
Yeah.
Like if we only tried to hire people that wanted Walmart franchises, we'd be out of luck, right? Because we wouldn't have anyone to work the cashiers. We wouldn't have any middle management. Like it would be a disaster. We'd all have a bunch of people that want to be in charge.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of top producers, like I only want people to want to be top producers. And for me is like, if I only wanted to hire people just like me, then they wouldn't need me if they were already well polished and not a pain in the butt. Like that's where your value proposition as a manager is to help people get to where you are, right?
Yeah.
And so I think initially I was very dismissive of people and only wanted people that were exactly like me. But now I realize like that's why you make money as a manager, is for providing value and teaching someone, how to do well, right? Absolutely. So the first thing I had to understand was not everyone's going to be like you, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And if you try to do the things that will help you sell 50, 60, 70 policies a month and apply them across your agency, that'll never scale. Yeah. Right. So I think, the first thing I realized was you have to meet people where they're at, meaning if someone, like, you're asking a lot of questions to people, right? So if I talk, one thing I've done for a long time is I'll take every month that we have our leaderboard comes out, I'll send a bunch of voice texts out to all of our directs, especially. And I used to do it with the whole agency. Now I just do it with our little base shop.
Yeah.
But I'll send out to everyone who wrote under 30 policies for the month. And I'll just send you a voice text, say, hey, Mike, it looks like you wrote 12 policies last month. I love having you on the team. I appreciate you. If you ever need anything from me, or if you want to, do more than that, please let me know. If you're happy where you are, I'm happy to have you on the team. Yeah. Reach out if you need anything. And so that would be a very good way for me to gauge whether or not someone wants to do more. Because there will be people who go, hey, man, like, I'm not really happy where I'm at. I'd like to do better. And then there'll be people who say, hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you reaching out.
Right. And both are okay, right?
And both are okay. And I didn't realize that for a while. I wanted all killers that were going to do, 40, 50, 60 policies
early on, before you got to that point, what would go through your mind when you saw that response of, no, I'm good where I'm at?
You should quit.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I think I told people you should quit. And then they quit. I'm like, why'd they quit, Mike? Right. Oh, because I told them to quit, and they quit. Like, dang, that didn't, like,
it's funny how that happens.
Yeah, I'm like, why did they quit? Oh, yeah, because I told them that they should quit, and I made them feel really insignificant, which is not true. If people are happy, if I have people that want to sell 12 policies a month, and they spend a bunch of time with their family, and they do well enough for themselves, that's great. Like, good for them. And then the people that want to sell 100 policies a month, I can also help them do that. But it's just understanding to meet people where they're at. Yeah. So that was the first thing I had to change. And the second thing I had to change was, and this was actually something Trey Honeycutt taught me early. Again, I reference everyone else because I did not create anything. I just figured out how to implement them.
Shout out to Trey.
Trey's great. So he was like, because you're doing a lot of cold market recruiting, which I will always do cold market recruiting. I think warm market is the best way to recruit, but I will always also do cold market. Yeah. And this is why. So Trey, I was recruiting a bunch of agents and trying to add, my goal was to add 100 agents by the end of the year. Okay. And I was annoyed because I felt like I wasn't finding quality people. And Trey was like, you're looking at this all wrong. You're trying to add 100 individual agents. Your goal should be to try to find 5 agents out of the 100 that are actually going to do something, and then spend 95% of your time with those 5 agents, help them become successful, profitable, producing agents, and then teach them how to recruit other people. Yeah. So your goal is to sift through all these agents, and all you're trying to do is go from cold market to find a few warm market agents, and then bring people from cold market to warm market, bring them into your warm market, and then teach them how to do the same thing that you've done, and then you'll tap into their warm markets. Yeah. So a lot of my, Easton was a cold market. Yeah. He was from a ZipRecruiter ad. Wiley, cold market. He was from a cold call off of a Monster ad back in the day. Wow. So a lot of my team, everyone's like, oh, you must have been all warm market. It's like, no, we're just similar ages. Yeah. These were all cold market recruits that we tapped into their warm markets and built a big agency from that. And so I looked at it the wrong way. Initially, I was like, I need to add all these people myself. And now my goal is, can I focus most of my time on a few people, say 5 people, get my starting 5, right, which is a term is used a lot, and then go deep with those people. Yeah. So spend a lot of time with them, teach them everything I know, from how to sell, how to recruit. And then if I can get all of those 5 people to each, recruit their own 5 people, that's how you multiply and scale an agency. Right. You cannot do it all yourself. No. So it's all about how well is what you're doing as a manager duplicatable? Mm. Is it teachable to the next group so that they can duplicate it? Yeah. And so I had to start looking okay, my only goal is to find a few good people, and then have those few good people find a few more people, and then keep teaching the next levels down, do the same thing. Right. And if you do that really well, then the message should translate down to the next groups. But that's where you have to start working in depth, right? Yeah. Where you have to go next level, next level, next level.
That's huge. Yeah. And I think, one of the keys along the way too is, when you're doing something that's good, something that's productive for your business, you should have somebody else watching you. Yeah. Right. If you're making all these recruiting calls and you're at home by yourself, why not do it in the office with 3 or 4 of your guys? It's 100%. That's what we always did back, and it was just try to get around it. If Sean was dialing, someone was there listening. Right. Yeah. If Sean's doing recruiting calls, you should be there listening. Why? Because the goal is for you to eventually do that as well. And how else are you going to learn it? I could call you and tell you how to do it, where I can go, dude, come to my office, and I'll recruit right in front of you.
Yeah.
Same thing we should do with dialing. Instead of me calling you, Zach, and telling you, this is how we dial the phone. How about I just dial right in front of you?
Right.
You know, always have someone around you that's trying to learn.
Yeah, and to your point, like there's only like I agreed that work ethic can get you a long way.
Yeah.
There's a cap on where work ethic will get you to.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people who I think go, I work 80 hours a week, so the universe owes me some sort of big reward.
Right,
And that's not how it works.
special.
Yeah, that is not, dude. I was talking to one of our guys the other day. He's from West Virginia. I'm like, what's a profession in West Virginia that works a lot of hours? It's like coal miners. Like how many hours a week? Like 80. Okay, they can't scale what they can make. They just
Right.
make what they make, and they work really harder than all of our agents probably, right?
Absolutely.
Like physical labor wise, yeah. Hours wise, probably.
Sure.
So after a certain point, you have to have leverage to be able to scale, right?
Yep.
And so like leverage, like you said, is everything you're doing, while you're doing it, you should be teaching other people to do the same
Yep.
thing. And then teaching them how to teach. And so you have to be more intentional with your time, right? And slow down. Like I think a lot of people are like, I just need to add all these agents. I'm like, no, if I can just teach Mike how to do everything that I know how to do,
Right.
then he can turn around and teach 2, 3, 4, 5 people how to do that. And I can teach, Precious how to do what I know how to do. And
Yep.
then, Bob, and I can teach all these different people how to do what I do. Then that's how it scales.
Right.
But I can't spend time with you if I'm trying to spend time with 99 other agents too.
Absolutely.
I could spend a lot of time with 5 people. And
Yeah.
so that's what I learned is just go real deep, build a couple really good relationships, and just download everything you know into a few people.
100%, dude. Now, all the stuff you're talking about seems like it takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And you're married now, right?
Mhm.
You guys have a young daughter, 11
Yep.
months old, right? In this business, I don't care what level you are in this business, it takes sacrifices to like, you got to give up to get, right? You can't just come in here. Like you mentioned some of these guys that are selling, 10 policies a month. They love to hang out with their families. That's cool. But if I'm coming into you day one and I go, Zach, I have debt, I'm trying to get out of my situation, whatever it may be, I'm trying to work my way out of my job, I'm not going to be able to sell 10 policies a month and hang out with my family,
Right.
40 hours, 50 hours a week, right? I know you've made tons of sacrifices over the years. Talk to me about what are some of the biggest ones and what some of the impact you've seen on your business when making these sacrifices.
Yeah.
And also how to, it's not like you're just walking out and come home when I get like you got to manage this, right? Your wife needs to be on the same page as well. So talk to me about some of these sacrifices and how important it is to kind of have everyone on the same team.
Yeah, so we were talking about this in here before, but like I couldn't be luckier. My wife's been so supportive.
Yeah.
Deborah's awesome. And it's cool now because she's in residency. Now she's working 70 hours a week, and
Yeah.
I get to kind of support her through that, which has been great. But she's always been on the same page, right? And I told her, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I got back. There was one time where I was probably like 4 months in the business, and I remember in the morning going, hey, can you take me to the airport? She's like, when? I'm like now. And she's like, that's not going to work.
Right.
I'm like, what's not going to work? Like you telling me in the morning that you're going to the airport,
Yeah.
having no plans, not going to work for me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I will never do that again.
Yeah,
but
understandably.
But can you
So,
take
yeah.
me to the airport? I got to go sell some insurance. And that was back, when we had to fly around to sell, right?
Yeah.
But after making that mistake, because I'm definitely not perfect, it was
Yeah.
always I was always looping again on what the plan was and what the long-term vision was.
Yeah.
And I would have.
Yeah.
But I think it took more than most people were willing to give up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So meaning like, I probably work 65, 70 like really intentional hours a week. There were days, there was a lot of things I said no to. It was less adding other things to my schedule and more taking them away.
Yeah.
So like I used to, when I was in the field still, you mentioned the last year I was in the field, I sold 800 policies. I wrote business every Saturday and every Sunday.
Yeah.
And my goal was to help 15 families minimally by Sunday and then not write for the rest of the week.
Got it.
And so I'd get
Real
to
quick on that.
Yeah.
What if you didn't? What would you
then
do?
I'd be back in the field Monday, and then I'd be back in the field Tuesday,
Yep.
and then Wednesday.
And
Until
that's
I
a
hit it.
piece I think a lot
Yeah.
of people miss, right? My goal is to do this by the end of the weekend. Oh, didn't do it. Maybe next week.
No, it's like when I say goal for me is like a non-negotiable standard,
Yeah.
right? I was like, I'm not gonna miss this.
Right.
Like this is my standard. I'm gonna hit it every single week, and I never missed it.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't gonna miss it,
Right.
And early on, you won't hit all your goals, but once you get decent at selling and kind of make sure you have good lead flow and everything figured out, then
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to miss.
Right.
As long as you keep your head straight. But yeah, it was a lot of, we said no to everything. We would do one vacation per year, and we would leave on Christmas Day, and we would come back on New Year's Day. Because I was like, that's the time where like not going to sell as much insurance as I would other days, and
Yeah.
probably no one will call me, and no one will know I'm gone.
Right. Mostly carriers are shut down.
Yeah.
Lead vendors are shut down.
Right.
So, yeah, perfect
no one
time.
knew, and that did not go over super well with, like, my parents and her parents, but that was the one, like, couple days where we did vacation every year.
But those are the you're not going to make everybody happy.
No, you can, and now I get to see my parents more, right? And I can travel to see them because I can work from my phone all the time. And you know, we have a baby, so the grandparents come visit her all the time. And we were joking about that when we were here before. Like, now all of a sudden, grandbaby, the parents come visit all the time.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, for those couple years, I had to give up. Like, I still worked out every day, but sometimes it'd be a 30-minute workout just to get my blood pumping and have a reason to justify drinking some caffeine at 5 in the morning. Right. And, like, I gained some weight during that time, but it didn't matter to me because I knew I would earn balance back later.
Yeah.
And have time to, you know, be really, you know, work heavily on, you know, spirituality and relationships and fitness and all this stuff that's super important. And I'm not saying that's the right path for everyone, but for me, I knew if I sacrificed really hard up front and like, I think most people a lot of people sacrifice, but they're not intentional too.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to sacrifice and get a lot of help along the way and seek out a lot of advice is what I'm doing wrong. Like, I bet you if you asked, you know, Sean, Andrew, and John, like, who's asked them the most questions, I bet you I would be willing to bet all my money that it's me.
Yeah.
Like, especially John and Andrew. Like, if you ask them who's asked you the most questions since you've known them, and what's the ingoing to outgoing call ratio? I bet you for the first 5 years in this business, I probably called John like 99 times, and he would call me one time back. Like, he would call me one time for something. Yeah. But I was just seeking out information and feedback along the way. Yeah. And I think a lot of people work really hard, but don't also get feedback along the way. Right. And it's kind of like, that's like having like a sports car that's lifted like a couple inches off the ground going at 100 miles per hour. And it's like such a small adjustment, but like, you can't see what's going on because you're in the sports car. Right. But if you just called someone who's standing outside, they'd be like, dude, just lower it down and you'll go fast. Yeah. But a lot of people just are spinning their wheels and they don't ask for feedback because of pride, or they don't want to, whatever it is, but they don't ask for feedback. And it's usually a really tiny tweak that it'll take you, it'll take you and let you take off fast. Right.
And odds are, I mean, speak about John, he's in the business a lot longer than you.
Way longer. Andrew too.
Business. Andrew, same deal. So it's like, why, if that's your goal, right? Yeah. If your goal is to build a business same size, similar to them, why wouldn't you ask them questions? Like, it seems crazy. Yeah. But I think it is a pride thing, right?
I think, dude, this is sound crazy to a lot of people. So when Deborah was doing school virtually, I was like, can we move? Yeah. And she was like, yeah. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, let's go to Vegas. She's like, why? I'm like, there's this guy, Andrew, there. I can't really get him to talk to me over the phone. I'm going to buy a house there, go to his office every day, and learn everything I can from him. Yeah. And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Do you have a problem with Vegas? She's like, no, let's go. Sounds good. And so we literally moved. I bought a house in Vegas. Like, yes, I was like, oh, I've told people at the time, like, it was for taxes. It was so that I could get near Andrew and build a relationship with him, because I knew he had so much experience that I could learn from. Right. Like, that sounds probably pretty extreme to people, but I think that you have to be willing to do things that sound crazy sometimes.
Absolutely.
To get results that are crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I remember before FFL days, Dominique he's from North Carolina, or from California, played ball in North Carolina, moved to Connecticut for a couple of years. Same reason, get around Sean. I mean, I lucked out. I lived in the same area as Sean, but once I started working with him, I was around Sean all the time. Same deal as you. I'd call him every day with questions. Yeah. But that's, if you want to you truly want to get better, you do have to swallow your pride in this business. Because I do think that's a lot of it, right? Like, what am I going to call Andrew for? I mean, and he's young. Well, y'all are about the same age, but for me, I mean, he's younger than me. Yeah. Why would I call him, But obviously he's got something figured out. And one thing, like, I guess disclaimer here, we're talking about Zach's results. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're going to join us and do what he did and have the same results. These are Zach's results, because you were willing to do things that I think a lot of people were not willing to do or are not willing to do. Yeah. No doubt. And the other thing I looked at too was, I'm like, okay, Andrew started when he was 18 years old in the business. He's like 34 now, I think, give or take. And I'm like, that's so much experience. If I can just get a little, like 10% of that out of him, or 15 or 20% of it, that'll cut my learning curve down a ton. And he can, even if I just learn some of the mistakes he made, that'll cut my learning curve down a ton. So, one other thing, dude, is someone asked me the other day, like, I feel like you just got blessed with like really good mentors. And I was like, dude, those guys didn't come to me and go like, hey, I want to mentor you. I was annoying and at every single meeting and always asking questions and walking around with a notebook. And but I didn't care what they thought about me. I just wanted to get better, And I think that's the key, though. A lot of people don't want to go through that uncomfortable, awkward phase. Because in the beginning, it's odd, right? A new kid shows up. Yeah. He ain't going nowhere. He keeps asking all those questions. He's not really doing a whole lot yet because you just got started. But eventually, it then becomes normal. Eventually,
Right.
it just becomes, oh, that's Zach, dude. He's
Yeah.
always here. But you got to go through that initial awkwardness, uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It is uncomfortable for me to ask someone questions. Like it is for anyone.
Yeah.
You come to this business, brand new, you've never done this. You know, you family of doctors, school, all this stuff, and now you're here asking people who aren't as educated as you, asking them for their. It's a little. You got to humble yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, you know, just like anything, people shy away from anything that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where you should go. Go to the uncomfortable, get out of your comfort zone, grow, and then it becomes comfortable.
Well, to your point, it's not like it wasn't. It's not like it was not uncomfortable for me. Like
Right.
I'm generally a bit of an introvert
Yeah.
and would prefer to kind of be like off on my own, like maybe with my wife and just hanging out
Yeah.
and not be talking to people all day. But and same thing with like, you know, like people were like, oh, I don't, you know, it's hard for me to wake up early in the morning. Like, dude, it's hard for everyone to wake up early in
Right.
the
Yeah, it's
morning.
not fun.
Yeah, like asking, you know, going out of your comfort zone and asking people who you don't know for advice and being willing to take it is hard for everybody.
Yep.
But one thing, to go back to Andrew, again, just referencing people,
Yeah.
like one thing he taught me early, he was like, one of the principles he lived his life by was if it feels uncomfortable to do, all of your peers feel uncomfortable to do it too, so you should do it because
Yeah.
they won't do it. So like if you have 100 people in a room and, you know, does waking up at 5 a.m. every day seem uncomfortable? Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
99 other people in the room will not do it. So if
Right.
I could be the one, how much further ahead does that put me? If I
Yeah.
get an extra hour a day for a year, that's extra 365 hours a year,
Right.
right? Or if I ask one question, you know, that can give me some sales tip every single day, right? Or just do these little tiny incremental things that seem like not a big deal.
Yeah.
And over one day, they're not a big deal, but over time, they'll compound like
Yep.
crazy. And just doing the things, like every time something, like what I started doing was seeking out things that felt like I didn't want to do them and then
Mhm.
doing them because I know everyone felt the same way.
Right.
And it felt like a little like weird edge in my head. I'm like, I bet someone, and I would, you know, compete against people. I'd be like, I bet
Yeah.
so-and-so doesn't feel like doing this right now. I'm gonna do it,
Right.
you know, because people I wanted to pass or get ahead of.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's mentally healthy, but I'm just saying that's what worked for
Hey,
me.
dude, it
you
worked
know?
for you, right?
Yeah.
So what about now? We talk early on. We talk about things
Yeah.
that made you uncomfortable, which I think there's a lot of people who probably have those feelings. I mean, dude, dialing the phone is uncomfortable
Yeah.
early on. Meeting with clients is uncomfortable. Going to corporate meeting, like whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we fly people in here and they go, it's uncomfortable even coming up. Like,
Yeah.
but now that you've been doing this for over 6 years, big business, integrity partner, scaling this thing, how do you keep yourself, or how do you get uncomfortable on a daily basis? What are some things you're doing now?
Yeah. So a lot of it is dealing with learning how to deal with, you know, more interpersonal relationship type stuff. So we had the opportunity to go to the Ziegler training.
Yeah,
which was
phenomenal.
amazing. Right.
Yep.
And so for me, that was uncomfortable to go to that because
Mhm.
it sounded like something that I would not enjoy. And then I got there and really
Right.
enjoyed it. And so afterwards I was like, oh, I probably should do the same thing for my team. I don't really want to do the same thing for my team.
Yeah.
So then in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I probably should do
Means
it.
you probably should,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then like last week we did the same thing for our team and we had our top 15 managers come in and did not exactly, but something very similar,
Yeah.
right? For a day and went through a bunch of stuff. And we were able to cater it a little bit more towards what we do as far as sales, you know,
Yeah.
marketing, you know, building. But a lot of that stuff that felt uncomfortable to me, like I couldn't have, dude, a month ago, I would have, or 2 months ago, I never would have imagined teaching anything like that.
Yeah.
And sitting through that and understanding how it affected me and let me, you know, understand different relationships I have and different personalities I work with and how to get the best out of people.
Mhm.
Going like, wow, I really don't know anything about this, learning more about it, and then turning around and teaching it. Like that made me really uncomfortable to do,
Yeah.
to put that event on, but it went really well and it was really impactful.
Right.
So I think it's always stuff like
what
that.
was the feedback coming out of it?
It was
from the
amazing.
agents?
Yeah. Everyone was like, we've never been to a training like that. That was, you know, and we did a lot of, you know, workshop type stuff in
Yeah.
there. So they're like, we've never done anything that was so applicable to our business and that was so interactive,
Right.
you know? And that's the result I had out of going to the Ziegler deal.
Yeah.
So I think it's now stuff like that. What's uncomfortable is for me trying to find different ways and different teaching mechanisms and frameworks to give my team that they can teach to their teams,
Mhm.
right? And trying to challenge myself to keep getting better and not get stagnant.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes when you have people tell you you're doing well and stuff like that, I hate it because I'm like, don't tell me that,
Yeah.
you know. But people will tell you you're doing well, and you have to block it out and understand that, you know, still very small, you know, tiny part of the industry. And we haven't accomplished anything yet, and we haven't arrived at all.
No.
And so I think it's just remembering that and remembering that we still hire direct, which I love
Yeah.
because it gives me the opportunity to still talk to brand new agents who, you know, need to pay their mortgage, need to pay their bills and things like that.
Yeah.
So staying connected to those agents, is uncomfortable because I could justify not doing it if I wanted to. But it keeps me, in the fight with them, which I think is super important.
Yeah, which was back to your original answer to the first question, like what still drives you is helping other people get to wherever they want to get to, right? And I think that's where we get messed up sometimes. You hear, I want to help them get to where I'm at. Well, how do you know they want to get to where you're at?
Yeah.
How about you help them get to wherever they want to get to?
Right.
To your point earlier, everyone's different, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is awesome stuff. And hearing about the journey, it's crazy. I feel like you just joined us, and it's been 6 years, and here we are.
Yeah.
But it's been cool to watch. Now, how do your parents feel about you not being a doctor?
Well, so they still got a doctor out of my marriage, which is cool. Like out of me being born, they still got a doctor child. It's my wife.
There you go. So
that's what we always joke about.
How do they feel about that?
Yeah, they're fine with it. They're like, we still
awesome.
got one. No, but they're happy. And it's I thought, and I had a big chip on my shoulder early on because I thought there was gonna be some judgment for me not doing that, which I think was again kind of made up competitive edge type thing. Yeah. But there was no judgment at all. They were super supportive the entire time.
And how many is it? Both parents are doctors?
My dad's a doctor. My mom's a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
And they're the most supportive, best people in the world. And that's I never lost perspective. I saw what it took for my dad to become a doctor and the hours he worked, to have the results he's had. And so I never lost that perspective with how fortunate we are in this business, to be able to control your schedule and do the things we're able to do. It's pretty amazing. But, I try not to lose the perspective of what it takes in the real world too. Yeah. Because it's very different.
Absolutely.
And if you treat this business like a professional, if you treat this business like how a professional athlete or a lawyer or a doctor treats it, you can do well. But if you treat it like you're driving Uber on the side, you'll have those results too.
Right. Oh yeah. Treat it like a hobby of hobby results. Yeah, no doubt. Yep. And I think that is a big misconception. People see sales and insurance and they automatically think, ooh, low effort, a lot of money. No, it's not how it works.
It's the other way around. It's such a low barrier of entry to the business. You get fingerprinted and a license to the state and pay a couple bucks for that. That's a very low barrier to entry. So what do you have to do to stand out? Well, you have to have work ethic that's different than everyone else's. 100%. Right? Whereas being a doctor is very high barrier to entry. You have to take out loans. You have to be really smart. You have to take all these tests. You have to get into school. You have to finish school. So, it makes sense that they get paid what they get paid when they get out of it. Absolutely. Right? Yeah. So this is the opposite. You have to stand out so far ahead of everyone else to have different results.
And it's on you at the end of the day. And that's what I've always loved about the business is it's on you. Yep. Good, bad, or indifferent. You do well, that's on you. You do bad, that's on you too. Yep. Your choices, your decisions, your actions. And then, it always goes back. It's, for almost 15 years I've been hearing attitude, activity. Yeah. But if you manage those two things, and this I think goes to anything in life, forget about whether you're competing at something, whether you're in art, whatever you're doing, if you manage your attitude, your activity, you should be able to get the results that you want. Yeah. You got to keep them both up. The one without the other is a disaster. Yeah. I mean, how many times you had an agent that works their ass off, but negative as hell?
I've been that agent at times in business too. I think we all go through ups and downs, but I've been the agent that's been negative and wonder why things suffer. And I've been positive and I wonder why it's going well. It's, so it's something that can change and you have to keep an eye on for sure.
Absolutely. Well, good stuff, dude. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate all you do for the company.
Yes, sir.
And let these guys know, hey, if someone's watching, they go, well, I want to join, FFL Capital. How do I get in touch? So if you're a brand new agent, you're looking to join, where can they follow you?
They can follow on Instagram, Zach_Twardowski, and my phone number's on there. Reach out to me, call me. I answer my phone all the time. So.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Zach is not a hard person to get a hold of.
Nope. Like Dion would say, you know where to find me?
Yep. I love it. And he will ask you questions on the phone.
And I will, no doubt.
I know. So. I feel like when you call, you have like an agenda. Like,
I do.
Hey, what's up, dude? And you're like, what about this? What about that? You got a couple minutes? But I love it, though, because it's like it's intentional. Yeah. And I always get a lot from you, too. So I appreciate, what you bring to the table. I mean, one of the hardest working people that I know. It's been a pleasure working with you for 6 years and keep this thing moving. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. And we'll be back at you next week right here on True Talk. Thanks again, Zach.